Hello. So I'm at my parents' house this evening again. So I decided to try to do this on my phone because the last time I used their laptop, it was the worst video quality. So I'm gonna try on my phone. Hopefully it doesn't cut out on me or anything, but either way, here I am. This episode of Conscious Living, again, I think you guys might have seen my post earlier today. I am flying solo. Poor DL is not feeling so hot today. I really hope that you feel better soon, DL. I miss working with you. I just miss you in general. We're going to see each other soon, though, and we'll be back in action, both of us, next week, and I look forward to it. So this week, I have been thinking, and okay, so first of all, I have one thing that I just need to get off my chest right now. I don't mean to offend anybody out there who watches the show, but like, holy cow. My parents are downstairs watching Grey's Anatomy right now, and I'm sitting in the kitchen trying to eat something before I do the video, have some energy. And I am so stressed out watching, or hearing, I'm not even watching it, hearing it from the living room, and the panic, and the intensity, and just the drama that is happening. And for those of you who are joining, I am talking about Grey's Anatomy right now, and how much it stresses me out. And I just can't watch stuff like that anymore. And so thank you, Ricky, for being on top of us for doing that. So, tonight, I think some of you saw my picture of the Transformers on my post earlier, that's exactly what I would like to talk about tonight. I would like to talk about transformation, and in a big way because I'm coming to the end of some of our coaching with some of my coaching clients, and I'm really totally inspired and amazed by their transformation that they've gone through in working together. And it just made me really think about that word, what that means, and why, as elevated lifestyle coaches, there's a few of you watching there, that when we start working with a person, the reason we don't do coaching sessions by the session, or even even a month long, right? How we work is working in transformations, and transformations don't happen overnight. We can't just snap our fingers and all of a sudden a transformation happens. Unlike the toy or the cartoon that I put in my post earlier, transformation is just like transformed. We unfortunately can't do that. We can in ways. All right, stop rambling before I go into that rabbit hole. But so working in transformation as a coach, as a human being in our lives. So let's just break it down. Let's slow down for a second. Let's define transformation. So I've written down actually the dictionary definition of transformation. I'm going to read that to you guys. And that is, there's a couple in there that, as you can imagine. So the first one is a thorough or dramatic change in form or appearance. Okay, so we can think about that, and we can think about several examples how that happens in our life. So its landscape has undergone a radical transformation. So that was their example there. And then also a metamorphosis during a life cycle of an animal, of course, caterpillar to a butterfly. Or the induced or spontaneous change of one element into another by nuclear process. That's also really cool to think about. So we have, there are several kind of types of transformation, and we'll get into that a little later. So I kind of want to get into more of a relatable example of what I mean. So let's take that physical example for an example. So let's think of periods of transformation that we have in our lives, that we all go through. Every single one of us watching out there, who's watching later, etc., we all go through this. And that is the transformation of our bodies as we age. And no, I love you too, DL. But you're better. This is me air hugging you. Okay, so the transformation of our bodies as a human being. So we're born, birth, and then we change, we become a toddler, and our bodies are growing, our muscles are expanding, our bones are changing, and all kinds of different things are happening here, from the quantum level to the mental level to the very matter that our brains are just changing with ideas and emotions, all of it. So we morph into a toddler, we learn more, we experience more. So we transition again. We move into a school-age child. Hi, Heather. So we move into a school-age child. So, 10, 11, 12, that kind of area. And we're growing even more. I love you too, Heather. And then another chemical change starts to happen to our body. We begin to go through puberty. So think about that transformation just for a second. Huge one, right? Like just totally ups and downs, changing everything. And we begin to think about life in a completely different way. And not only that, but, we've talked a lot about, on Elevated Academy, a lot about limiting beliefs, habits, and a lot of those have already formed by the time we hit that stage of transformation, puberty. So we're taking all of these things and as in those early years, all of those things that we experience and those emotions are, for the most part, what feel like in this reality at firsts. So first experiences with emotions, first experiences being hurt physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually maybe, our awareness is changing. And so then we hit puberty and we take all of those things that have started to build us up as a human being, and they change and morph alongside our chemicals and our body. And again, this doesn't happen overnight. So as a teenager, maybe we start puberty at that 11, 12, right? We start to change. That happens over time. Lots of big changes to our bodies, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. All of these things, 16, 17, things start to kind of level out a little. We can start to kind of figure out our bodies a little bit, looking different for both men and women and everyone in between there. And then we start moving into early adulthood. And I remember that feeling, actually, when somebody looked at me and was like, "Oh, you're getting your woman face." And I was like, "What? My woman face? What does that mean?" But, looking back at pictures, you can totally see it, right? You really start to grow into all of the gangliness in your arms and your body and your nose and your ears and your mouth, and even, maybe let's say you had braces or a spacer, whatever, on your teeth, and your teeth move and they fit in your jaw all of a sudden. Yeah, very, very animated today. Hi, Tara. Gina. Hey, everybody. So we move into early adulthood, and then even, moving forward after that, we move into becoming, so it's like 25, 26. We're getting pretty comfortable in our adult body. Maybe not mentally or emotionally or anything. I know that wasn't the case for me, but we become a little bit more grounded in our existence, our physical existence and transformation, our form. Start to slow down on that rapid growth, rapid transformation that might happen at 13th, 14th growth spurts, everything like that. We start to kind of settle a little bit more. But then along comes another big transformation, if that is what you end up choosing. People who become a parent. So we become a father, a mother, any one of those things. We start to, hi Alden, we start to change into that transformation. And that also can take some time too. That doesn't just happen overnight, especially for mothers. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm not a mother. I don't know. But what I've seen and from what I've spoken to a lot of women about, but also men. You know, women, of course you have the baby, but that doesn't mean you just automatically drop into motherhood, right? Your bodies are adjusting, and it takes time, sometimes even a couple years. And, you know, just from my research and from talking to men, I don't know if a lot of you know, or maybe not all of you, but I worked as a hairdresser for 5 years, and you get to talk to a lot of people, and the saying is true. People share a lot with their hairdressers, and it is both a blessing and a curse, because you definitely get to know people very quickly, which I love personally. That's not an issue for me, clearly. But they're definitely vulnerable. They're in a vulnerable state, right? You know, you're touching their head. They are, you know, if you get your hair washed, you're totally laying back. Your neck is exposed. Somebody is washing your hair for you. There's something so intimate and vulnerable about that feeling that people definitely naturally just open up a lot more. So I've been able, through that experience, to connect with both women and men on a very deep and intimate and kind of a no-holds-barred kind of way, which is really great, because for me, I enjoy that, and that makes me happy. But it's allowed me to kind of have insights, like what I'm saying. Even though I haven't become a parent yet myself, I feel like I've got an idea of what they're saying. So we go through that transformation, and again, that takes a little bit of time. Even you see that a lot with fathers from my conversations with that. You know, it's really even at that, like, and of course this depends on everybody's situation, but even at that, like, age 4, 5, 6, and I mean, this was true in my situation too, where their personality starts to come out in a child. And that's really where you see that action, that male intention and action coming through from the father, and that's starting to blossom in a man. So you have that whole period of transformation, becoming a parent. And then we sort of go through, again, that period of, okay, so maybe like from 30 to 50, 60 kind of area, where you're living the big kind of doing part of your life. So there's all kinds of little mini transformations, right? And we kind of learn how to handle them a little bit better, but also kind of through experience, we learn how to transmute things. And that's another thing I'm going to go into a little bit later. So let's continue on our evolution here of transformation of our form, our physical form. And so then we move into becoming, again, like around that 50, 60, 70, moving into that 80s, becoming an older adult, wiser, of course, because we've gone through all of these different transformations, and move through that period. Maybe we have grandchildren at that point, you know, who knows? Everybody's situation is unique. Or maybe, you know, we've had different health struggles or anything like that. So we start to have gone through many different types of transformation in our lives. So as we progress, you know, we've gotten, okay, so where are we at now? We're at that 80, kind of 90 mark. And, you know, based on research, the average life expectancy of men and women now between 80 and 90 kind of thing. So we start to look at the end of our lives. And as we approach that, we're going again through a different type of transformation, a different type of kind of reverting back to that birthing process. Kind of as we come into the world and we're growing, kind of letting go and moving down, getting ready to go back. So we go through death. That last and final form transformation. And of course, everything about this is quantum in nature. So let's talk about that for a second, the different types of transformation. So of course, we talk a lot about alchemy on Elevated Academy. which is huge, right? There's several steps of transformation in the alchemical process, and all based on the elements, which is just so fascinating. I'm still in the process of learning all the details. I cannot whip it off the top of my head like Ricky, unfortunately. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but further, we all know. So now, and then we have, of course, geometrical transformation, which is sacred geometry, right? Like, it's math. It's the whole world is math. Music is math. Art is math. Our face is math. Everything is math. It's all geometry. That's all transformation. We can see it all happening on that quantum level. So then we have the physical and we have elemental, of course. So again, all small packets of quantum particles, light information moving, transforming us on a day-to-day basis. And I think, if I am correct, we get a whole new body every year. So like all of our skin, all of our cells constantly transforming, constantly changing, growing, and completely rebooting. So our cells dying, growing new ones, transforming, manipulating, all of that. So, but let's go back into that kind of. So I think, everyone watching and everybody who's kind of a part of this group, we're all in that middle part where that, maybe 25 to 80, 90 area. And we've got all of those little kind of waves of transformation. And like I said in the beginning, when we work with someone as a coach, we often enter into somebody's life at a period of transition, which is a little bit different than transformation. So transition is a period, where we're kind of just shifting. We've recognized that something needs to change. So, or, we've chosen change, or such changes happened and we weren't necessarily ready for it. And so we're transitioning from one place to another. Now, that's sometimes in that place let's go to the stages of competence. We're kind of, so for instance, I'm learning how to drive. I talk about this example a lot. And in the beginning, and to be honest still, I am unconsciously incompetent. Did I get that right, Ricky? Can you give me a yes or no on that? So I don't really know how to drive, so I'm still very conscious and aware of still unconscious of all the little things that I need to do. But now I'm moving into that transition, so I'm consciously incompetent. I know I don't know how to drive, so I'm very focused on what I'm doing in order to not hurt myself or other people. And so that's where I'm at right now. So it's a period of transition. I'm transitioning from being someone who doesn't know how to drive into being someone who kind of knows how to drive. Thanks. Consciously competent. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so I'm in that state of transition. So the transformation, I don't think that I don't know how to drive. I know how to drive. I know how to handle. I know how to drive. I know what's going on. I just need to get used to it. So hence my point about the transformation. That's something that takes time and effort and practice, and something that I need to do over and over and over again till I get to that point where I will be unconsciously competent. And so I want to talk about, there's so many of those in, the internet is full of it these days, these and not that I'm not hating on it because I love it, but they're just quotes everywhere all the time. And it's it just makes it sound like it's so easy, right? That, just get up and think positive and everything will just transform. And it just doesn't work that way. And often people will not change until, and this is a quote, the pain of not changing, because I don't know how it actually goes, but basically the pain of staying the same, not changing, becomes overwhelming to the pain of staying the same. They're not equal anymore. So staying the same becomes too painful to not do something about it. And then we've launched into that period of transition. And again, like I said, often as coaches, that's sort of where we enter into somebody's life, because they're like, I need help here. I can't do this all on my own. And I would like to do it in a way that's healthy, or that's guided or assisted, any of those things, looking for help, right? So that period, and that's why really that whole idea behind transformation, and going back to the example I mentioned in the beginning, where, you know, at this point now, at that 3 month, maybe 6 month, even a year mark, you really start to see a complete shift in somebody, because it's been something that they've practiced and done over and over and over and over and over again. And that looks like completely going back to the source. Okay, so what do I want to transform? What do I want to change? So we go in there, and as we know, as we've all talked about many times, those are the limiting beliefs. Those are the habits. Those are the blocks. Those are the things that are holding you back. That, you know, just not at that stage yet, right? So what does that look like? And so for me, I this full moon, I don't know if that's rocking anybody else's world, but holy cow, for me it's been a big one. And a big part of it, and a big part of the idea behind transformation and what makes it possible, what I think anyway, is taking that. And I heard Alicia use this term earlier, a couple of months ago, and I just loved it. And it's the radical responsibility. That resonates for me, and that is what drives my transformation. So taking responsibility for absolutely everything in your life. Like, that's pretty big. That's huge. And talk about transformation, because when you do that, you are able to become really honest and really humble with yourself, and be able to actually be very effective and make real change in your life, real transformation. Yeah, Alicia, thank you so much for that. It really made a huge, that was a mind-blowing moment for me. Talk about mind-blowing moments. I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a second. So I talked about the thank you, Tara. I think you're watching. Hopefully you are still. When we went to go watch Dr. DeMartini, like she just totally rocked my world in terms of perspectives and taking responsibility for your life and understanding the balance of it all. And I've been listening to some of the talks that we were given. We paid a very small price compared to what I've gotten out of it, and received a whole package of different talks, different books, different PDFs, and they've just been amazing. And I've been listening to them the last couple of days, and I'm just like, was in tears. You know, when something moves you to that point, I'm on the bus and I'm just like, oh God, my life, and being able to really feel that authentic responsibility, and understanding that there's a balance in everything in the world, the negative and the positive, right? The maximum growth that you can have happens in the middle of support and challenge, right? So yeah, this full moon is kind of crazy if you get down like that with the full moon energy, and I'm pretty sure you all do. You know, we're kind of being called out, like things are just being super illuminated and super out in the open. Let's talk about it. Let's look at it. What are you not taking responsibility for in your life? What is holding you back from your transformation? Because I mean, you know, as we look in that 30 to 90 area, we're going to go through a lot of them. And it's a constant journey. There's no end goal, right? And I mean, I believe that the idea of death doesn't really exist, right? We're energy, we continue on, and we become reincarnated, all of that. So, you know, where are you not taking responsibility in your life? Where are you not being honest? Where are you not being humble in order to move through the next part of your transformation? So another big, and I know this was to be true for Ricky as well, we both got the same message, I guess we'll call it, last night in both of our we both did individual ceremonies and for new moon rituals and full moon, not moon, anyway. And the message that I got in my meditation was, so where can I find those answers? Where can I find that piece that I'm not hearing or I'm not seeing? And right away, the message was, listen to your body. And I posted a thing in the group earlier today too. So those of you that, look at the posts and everything, I posted a really great list actually that kind of goes through some of the big, major, top 20 things that a lot of people kind of suffer from day to day and what those things might be telling you inside your body. And it was really illuminating for me. And then I'm listening to this talk by Dr. DeMartini and I've got it all and I'm just like, okay, time to listen, Julia. So go through and really look at, that's my challenge for you all today, to go in and look. If you're looking for answers, try doing that. Try in your meditation, because I know everybody watching now has some sort of meditation practice or is thinking about having one. Maybe you've tried, maybe you're still, practicing, right? Of course, it's a practice, but like myself, it's something that I really need to work at, and it's a skill that I'm developing right now. So it's an effort. It's a practice that you have to do every day. So if you're kind of looking to do some of that self-made transformation and you're looking to go, you understand that you need to go within. So taking that time to drop into that in your meditation and really you've all heard the term body scan, right? You've heard that term before. If you've ever taken a yoga class, if you've ever even worked with a personal trainer, I see you popped in there, Justin, anything like that, taking a body scan and recognizing where you have pain, where you might have inflammation, where you might have any kind of chronic pain or injury, anything like that has continued to follow you for a very long time. Look into those things. Follow up on that. Slow down and pay attention, because a lot of those are keys. Those are answers. Those are invitations for you to take responsibility for what you're not being honest or humble about. So I don't know if you guys want to, I know there's tons of research out there. Stephanie was sharing some with me today. Thank you, Stephanie, for that. And I know that there's some pretty big names that are really kind of the leaders in a lot of this body-mind connection. But if you guys want to share any that you've read that have really stuck for you, please do that, because I'm super interested and I definitely want to learn more about this. So yeah, Jennifer, it's really cool, right? I love this group for this reason, because we share resources like this, and this is the most important part about having a community like this, is to be able to depend on each other and help each other have responsibility, right? So again, if you guys have, yeah, DL, exactly, autonomy of the spirit. Okay, cool. Thanks, Kathy. So anybody who has, hey, Justin, any comments or anything like I said, any sources that you really found stuck out for you, please do share so we can all check it out. So another T that I want to talk about that plays into all of this. So we have transition. That's whoa, okay, we've just transitioned into something. And then we have transmutation, which is another piece that happens sort of in the middle here. that transformation is sort of that longer, like, that's like the rainbow over the whole thing. The transmutation is like the different colors and the different shades and reflections all through in the rainbow. So it's like the transmutation is the application of wisdom, right? So we take that wisdom that we both received, both me and Ricky received last night, listen to your body, and we apply that wisdom to how we can continue on our transformation. And working with a coach, it's sort of the same thing. So you can take a situation or something that comes up, a limiting belief, a habit, something that's coming up for you constantly, and you bring it to your coach. And you work together based on your skill set, based on their skill set, to apply the wisdom to transmute that into something that pushes you further along your transformation. That makes sense, right? Yeah. So, cool though, right? Like we have that conversation, light bulb goes off, but how do we make it stick? And how do we keep going with that transformation? So we become unconsciously competent, right? That's the right one. The one where we're doing it anyway and we don't have to think about it, is what I'm saying. How do we get to that point? You know, and that again, like that takes a long time, right? But, or not necessarily. Why, that's a limiting belief, Julia. It doesn't need to take a long time. But how do we do that? Effort, practice, every day. As Ricky likes to say, you can't just brush your teeth once a week or once a year and it be the same thing. You have to brush your teeth every day in order to see the results, right? So the best way to look at it is that every challenge in our life, every little hiccup, every little change in the light prism of that rainbow is an opportunity to transmute that, use wisdom, apply the wisdom, and it's an opportunity to transform. Always. Our whole life is an opportunity to transform. And that's the whole idea behind the mirror as a reflection. You know, when we feel... Okay, so we're walking down the street and somebody bumps into us. You know, and people do that sometimes, smash you right in the elbow or the shoulder. And you're like, man, like, geez. And you get, you know, you could take that personally. Like, why did they just do that to me? Slow down. That happened because there's always balance in the world. Everything is negative and positive at the same time. You can't have one without the other. So, why did that happen? Look back. Where is it reflecting in your life? Somehow, that's entangled somewhere. Where are you kind of blindly walking and not seeing things and bumping into things and not focusing and just sort of... violent is not the word because it's not violent, but you know what I mean. Violently kind of crashing through life. Where is that happening in your life? That is an opportunity for you to slow down and look at that and find out where else it's happening in your life. And then you can go back, find that girl and be like, thank you for making me wake up. Thank you for helping me on my transformation. I mean, maybe you can't do that because you don't have time. You can't run back and give her a hug. But mentally you can do that. And you can send that person gratitude. I just made her a female somehow. But, you know, mentally you can send that person gratitude and thanks for allowing you to have that moment of waking up. So, each challenge is an opportunity to grow. Each challenge, support, right? So, even if you have to do the part where you're supporting, that person challenges you, you're supporting yourself by going, okay, wait a minute here. Where have I done? How is that reflecting in my life? What is that showing me? What is that telling me? Supporting yourself. It's okay. I do that. I'm a human being too. They're a human being. Right here. Maximum growth happening. Boom. Transmutation. on our way to transformation. So I just want to share a personal story about, and then I want to open it up to questions, because I think this is a super interesting conversation or topic, because it's just, hey, thank you, Alicia, for helping me on my transformation. You know, I sent Alicia a picture of my sandwich that I made before my video tonight, because we had a lovely coffee date this afternoon, and she inspired me to make my tomato and cucumber bagel sandwich earlier, and it was delicious. So thank you. You know, there you go. Transformation, physically, food that comes into my body and that gives me energy, alchemy, physical, transferring that form of food into nutrients, although I really don't know if there's a whole lot of nutrients in a bagel. There isn't, probably. And those people out there who are nutritionists can let me know. However, the whole point being of that little side note there is that everything is in a state of transformation all the time, constantly. And it's actually a miracle and the beauty of being a human being, you know, the fact that we get to experience that every day. Sometimes it is hard, and sometimes it's ugly, and sometimes it's really heavy and dark. But then when we're on the other side of that, because, I mean, I know that every single one of you out there has periods of inner peace. You have periods of inner turmoil. You have periods of all the stuff outside of you being peaceful, and periods of all the stuff outside of you being crazy chaos. But the crazy part is that it's all just a reflection. So if you feel like stuff is going nuts on the outside of you, that's the opportunity to reflect, to look at the challenge, to look at how you can apply the wisdom. How can you transmute that situation? How can you grow from it, even though it might hurt, so you can continue on your transformation? So, an interesting story, and I'm just going to get super personal, I guess, for a minute. But, so, when I was listening to the talk on my way home, and a lot of different things that have been coming up in the last 24 hours after full moon ceremony, powerful as many of you know or experienced they can be. Even just the energy that's happening on is just calling you to look at what's coming up, right? Like, just be really open and honest and vulnerable and look at it right in the face. And for me, I have a really hard time with, I guess we'll say, dependency. So, dependency versus independency, and what that even means, and what is the difference there. So I followed my own messaging that I was getting. Go look at what's going on with your body. So for me, I've been having a lot of inflammation in my knees and in my lower back. A lot, especially my left knee, which is interesting, right? In your feminine side. And so, yeah, I think so. And here's where the crazy part is. It's like, I actually talked to my mom a little bit about it, and I'll back up and tell the story first, but she was like, yeah, you've been that way since you were a little girl. And it really kind of blew my mind a little bit. But so I looked up knees, lower back, and my tailbone. And a big part of it, all that was coming up, was dependency, was the fear, so dependency versus independency, and the inability to be honest about the fact that you see, it's hard for me even to say it. Like, that's how much it affects me, that you enjoy being dependent. And I don't mean it, and see, right away, the wheels that are turning in my head right now are, being dependent is weak. Being dependent is something that, you know, a broken woman is, rather than being this independent, you know, business suit, I'm gonna go big bossly woman running the show, blah, 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 right? Like that really high energy, do, independent woman, strong woman, right? Yeah, Kathy, right? So that, and I mean, I was born in 87. So that whole idea of that's what a strong, independent boss, alpha female is, really started in that like later 70s, 80s, where women started to really come into the workforce and they were wearing, you know, that pantsuit, that Hillary Clinton vibe, independent woman, hear me roar, I can run businesses, all of these things. Yeah, see, there you go, Justin. Yeah, it can totally be the opposite, right? And so, same. So what happened is understanding, and I didn't, you know, my mom and my dad have a very kind of, they love each other so much, but it's not a codependent relationship, but slightly, right? Like just, they do everything together kind of thing. So I didn't grow up with this like super independent example. So in my head, being really dependent, I associated it with a weak woman, being a weak woman. And I developed a lot of pride. Sorry about my dog barking. Hopefully he'll stop soon. I developed a lot of pride around that and would not ever admit that I wanted that. I wanted to be taken care of. I wanted to be supported. I wanted to be able to express my emotions. Like I'm honestly getting choked up right now because it's actually that hard for me to talk about. And so I was explaining this to my mom. And so it was so subconscious in my existence, not really even knowing that about myself. Because I had, you know, compared to a lot of people's lives, I didn't really have a lot of suffering physically, you know, mentally and emotionally, maybe, sure, but through relationships. But I didn't suffer in a way that I didn't want for anything as a child. I didn't have a hard life, right? But because I learned that pattern so early in my life, for a lot of other reasons that I won't take up everybody's time explaining, but because I developed that idea that being dependent is weakness, I manifested situations in my life over and over and over again, relationships, really abusive relationships, friendships and intimate relationships, and even to myself, depression, anxiety, all of these things that were opportunities, challenges for me to reach out for help, to get better at asking, to get better at expressing my emotions and not just shutting down, not just being weak, right? So I did that so subconsciously for so long in my life that I managed to manifest a chronic illness in my life that would somehow create attention or a reason that people had to pay attention to me without me having to ask for it. So, which is very interesting. That's just like blowing my mind a little bit right now. So I talked to my mom about this, and she said to me, you know, you've been this way ever since you were a little girl. You would never admit your emotions. You would never admit that you were sad. You would go away to cry by yourself. That everything was a joke. If I wasn't away alone somewhere, I was the center of attention. I'm a Leo. You would perform all the time. But everything was a joke. You could never actually sit in what was happening or in your emotions. And I have not been able to do that in my life until maybe 2 years ago. And even in this year, and Ricky, I'm just gonna be personal right here for a second. But, I mean, I don't think you really care. Anyway, to the point where even really special moments between Ricky and I've had a hard time to actually sit in them. They're wonderful, they're beautiful, and they're so authentic and real that I can't. It has been a challenge up until probably 6 months, 8 months ago, to be able to slow down and be in that moment, to actually be present in the moment and not look away when he looks right in my eyes. To not be kind of bashful or walk away when, we want to dance in the kitchen and be close like that together. That transformation into being able to be present in my emotions and feel them, even though it makes me go through this weird thing of being dependent or weak, because it's emotional and it's beautiful and it's raw. That transformation has only happened in the last 8 months. And that took a good almost 1.5 years of work in order to do it. And even now, as I'm telling you this, if I wasn't on camera right now and by myself and having these reflections, I would totally be bawling. But because I'm still trying to hold it back. And so it comes right back to something that me and DL have talked about. We've talked about a lot in Elevated Academies, being that authentic self. Because that's where everything's balanced. That's where we have the positive and the negative all the time. That's where it's okay to be yourself. That's where it's okay to be okay with the fact that I love being loved. And I love giving love. And I'm only now getting to the point where I'm getting consciously competent with asking for that. So it's really cool. This magical experience of being a human being and going through one transformation to another transformation. So thank you, everyone, for letting me share that with you and get real personal. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate that. And DL, for the support there. So I'm just going to let, if anybody has any comments or any questions, we've got about 10 minutes left. I'd love to, I think what I'm going to try to do if I can, and I've been able to share a lot of them via email, so I don't think it would work pretty okay. I'm going to see if I can try and upload some of those talks that I was talking about by Dr. DeMartini. I know he's got a lot of stuff on YouTube, but just so then you can have the MP3 and maybe put it on your phone or whatever, so you can listen to that on the way. Thanks, Alicia. Jennifer, let me hear those questions. And it's just really, and I hope you guys like the challenge too. That's part of why I wanted to put that out too, was to kind of open this up and allow it to be, the support and space where we can get really vulnerable and we can share and share our personal references and, help each other grow. That's what we need, right? It's a challenge. Like maybe in me sharing that story with you guys, that brought up a lot for you somewhere. And it made you start to go inward and reflect and take a moment and look at where you're not being honest and where you're not being humble and taking responsibility. And I love you too, TL. Again, another air hug. So I hope that, that can help people slow down and take a minute to reflect. Take a minute for radical responsibility. Okay, how can you control your emotions? Recently, so Jennifer says, how can you control your emotions? Recently, someone at work was really mean to me and it really bothered me all day. I think I have a couple answers for that. So I think the point is, and from what I've learned from just sharing that, because like it's still so heavy, right? Like I can tell I need to get more out. So I think that over emotional and endlessly getting attacked. What should I know about myself to get changed? Okay, perfect. Then you got my second answer. So perfect, Jennifer. You're already right. You take a little more credit for a second, support yourself, and understand that you're already on the right path. You're already answering yourself the right way. What should I know about myself to change the situation? 100%. First, though, I want you to know that you don't need to control your emotions. Maybe in the way you don't want to like lash out and hurt somebody, for sure. You need to control that emotion. Control those things where you don't need to be breaking the law. But you don't need to control the way that your body reacts to something. So this person at work is mean to you and it bothered you all day. Okay, so right there, we know that that is something that we need to look at. So we slow down and we look at the actual situation and we break it down. Okay, so we look at where else in your life that might be happening. So what is the actual, right, yeah, like don't feel your emotions. No, okay, so ding, 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 let's pay attention. We don't live there. We don't let them come in and own us, push us to the point where we do want to break the law. That's the part that becomes unhealthy and becomes counterproductive. But can use them as a tool to let us know where we need to look. So break down the situation, and if it's something that keeps happening over and over again, look at it in the other situations and see how it's connected. And so endlessly getting attacked. So, where else do you feel that you're attacked in your life? Or where else are you kind of, where are you kind of over attacking a situation? Where are you kind of trying to overcompensate or over control something? Trying to dominate something, right? That feeling of being attacked, dominating, taking over. So really start to break down the situation and see it for what it is. And again, remember, there's always a balance of negative and positive, right? So even at the moment, and this is what it was in one of those talks, and this was just blowing my mind a lot. Like in every negative part, like every time somebody shoots you down, there is another person bringing you up, even if that's yourself, right? There you go. Yeah, there you go, Jennifer. So to slow down and look, right, can be really helpful. And so if we're trying to project that onto somebody else, and we're that domination feeling or that feeling of not attacking but being able to control, it's always again, something's gonna come to balance us, right? So we're challenging. And by challenging your students, there's always going to be the other reaction. There's always going to be someone, if we get defensive or challenging like that, or start to dominate, there's always going to be something that comes to humble us. Always. That's just to keep the balance. So we get a little bit aggravated and we try to dominate and control the students. So, boom, something comes to humble us. Somebody, your coworker, is mean to you and kind of knocks you back down into place, good and bad. I hope that helps. Justin, Okay, awesome. What about the opposite of that? Showing little to no emotion. I've been described as a robot in typically emotional situations. Dude, I get you. That's it. Like, that is it for me too. It's like the idea of showing emotion becoming weak, right? Like being vulnerable. But here's the kicker. I avoided it for so long. Avoided feeling those emotions because, great, Jennifer, I'm really glad. Because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to bring that on to myself and feel those emotions and not be able to control anything. That I literally created hardened plaque inside my brain. Like, to the point where I didn't break myself. You can heal yourself. But to the point where I hardened so much because of that pride. That's really what it is, right? Like when it comes down to it. I'm good. I don't need to feel that. Like it's fine, right? And maybe you're not actually saying that, but deep down somewhere. So to the point where, like I said, I created hardened plaque in my brain pathways. Like, that shit's for real. Like, so how do you go about flipping that around? How do you transmute that? How do you apply that wisdom of, okay, I know if I don't actually feel my emotions, that I'm going to end up doing something kind of crazy to myself, right? Something is going to happen in order to make you feel those emotions. Because the more you push them away, something is going to come and humble you to feel those emotions. So, control. Yeah. Always want to be in control. So, but why, right? And okay, cool, why? We can go back all the way down to your childhood and probably find a situation where you decided that wasn't the easy way to deal with things. I can control this, can control my emotions, and that makes me feel like I got my shit together. We can find that out. But that doesn't really help us right now because you got to keep going, right? Like, and you don't want to get to a point where something fucking nuts happens and that you're on your fucking knees and you're like, like I'm helpless right now. I am totally helpless and there's nothing you can do about it. So my question to you, I guess, is what are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding feeling your emotions? How does it help you? What does it do for you? What are the benefits of hiding your emotions? And then what is the cost of hiding your emotions? But I really think the key thing is the avoiding thing. You're avoiding not dealing with something. There's something there that is not, it's like, it's ready to come out because you wouldn't ask me that question if it wasn't. So you seem like you're a pretty brave guy, right? Like you go lift some crazy weights and like they might drop on your head, but you do it anyway. You're a pretty brave guy. So why are you avoiding it? What benefit are you getting out of it? So I would probably just spend some time with that. I mean, hey, like, full moon energy is like making you, that's what I was talking about, right? It's about taking responsibility for that. Taking responsibility for what needs to be shaken up in your life. Like you can think of it as a sifter, right? Like this full moon coming in and just shaking shit up and all the big things come to the top. That's the stuff that's going to come out. So, yeah, take a look. Get vulnerable. I mean, you have women in your life too, right? Like that balance. I know you pretty sure you're married, right? You have a daughter, I think. So lean into that. Lean into that feminine presence in your life. Ask for help. Ask to be supported while you look and find out what you're afraid of. And yeah, Kathy, what will happen if you lose control? Think about that. What is the absolute worst thing that could happen if you lose control? It's probably not as bad as you think it is. And it's actually probably not even as close to bad as what could happen if you don't start looking at that. Because who knows what's going to happen if you don't, right? So guys, we're at 9:01 and I literally could talk for hours about any of this. But please, if you have more questions or you're looking for a push, use our group. Support one another. Put your question out there. We've got almost 200 people in this group that are willing to help, including myself and Ricky, including all the elevated lifestyle coaches. All right, guys. Thanks for letting me be vulnerable and be honest with you. I really appreciate it. I needed it. It was my big stuff that needed to come up. So, thank you. Thank you, DL. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. And like I said, please share if you have any other questions. Have a wonderful night, everyone.